Hey everyone, it's Sarah, the elder millennial.
And this is Bill, the infant boomer. Welcome to Strengths on Fire, the podcast for strengths enthusiasts who want to have fun while leveling up.
Get ready for a mix of powerful insights, unexpected stories, and plenty of laughs along the way. Hey Bill, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Sarah, let's light it up! Oh, good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Mr. Dipple. How are you doing on this fresh Friday?
This is a gorgeous Friday in Reno, Nevada. I'm just telling you.
What is the temperature in Reno, Nevada right now?
So it's been a weird fall, which, by the way, if you're ever going to come visit, I know I've only offered many times, but if you're ever actually going to come visit, there is no better time in the high desert of Reno, Nevada than fall. And by fall, September, October.
Okay,
right?
Can you give me a little snippet? What kind of weather? What's the situation?
So today's going to be about 83.
Okay.
But keep in mind, we
Feels
have
hot,
zero humidity. We have nothing humid. So when you come, you're literally and then the nights go down to 55 to 60.
Yeah, that's what's happening in Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska over here, we feel a little hot for my liking. I feel like usually this time of year, I prefer a nice 70-degree day.
Yeah.
We've been getting to the 80s. I think tomorrow it's supposed to be 95, which is outrageous and honestly insulting. I want to be in soup season, sweater season. I need to be in my cozy socks. I don't need to be in a swimming pool. They're all closed. We close our swimming pools on Labor Day because it's supposed to be cold. I don't need it to be 95 degrees in October. It's outrageous.
Well,
I'm a little upset about it.
We're breaking some records. So our 85 is breaking records. Normally we're right at the 75 this time of year.
See, that's perfect.
It's so nice. And, everything's starting to change. It's beautiful. The nights are crisp for your sweater weather, Sarah, that I want to put you in. Right.
Campfire, a little bonfire situation.
Right.
When we get football, fall, the leaves, the bonfires, the soups, the pumpkin spice lattes. I had my first PSL of the season yesterday. So I'm just really trying to get into it right now.
Okay, so pumpkin. Yes or no?
Yes, not as hot and heavy on the pumpkin as I was maybe 4 years ago. But yes, I'm still a pumpkin fan. Did I buy a box of pumpkin puree or whatever comes in the can from Costco last week? Yes, I did. And because I live in Lincoln, Nebraska, did I see a client in the Costco? And did she stop me to say, "What's this box?" I just said, "It's pumpkin puree."
You got busted.
I may have it for the next 7 years because am I really going to use 7, 8, 9, 10 cans of pumpkin puree this season? No, I am not. But I really can't resist a good deal.
You got busted with pumpkin puree.
God, you just can't go anywhere without seeing people, You're just I just came here with no makeup on, just got kid
so good
slobber on my shirt.
Right,
and I'm just what is up? I'm a real professional person buying a lot of pumpkin.
I totally get it. Well, and the question was really around the pumpkin drinks that get infused, right?
Yeah.
So I've brought this up. I don't mean to offend anyone. I just don't drink coffee. It's just not.
I know. It is offensive though.
I know it is. And I've just turned off half of our 2 listeners. So, and that's fine. I get that. That's totally okay. But
we can bring them back. I found pumpkin wine.
Can we get them? Can we get?
Excuse me. Did Katie Christensen just say she found pumpkin wine?
Pumpkin wine? I did. Now wait a minute. Wait a minute. We have a whole new category. Katie, go on.
It doesn't sound like something you'd want to be a part of, but I'm telling you, it actually is real good. Real good. Minnesota.
Is this a local delicacy?
It's a Minnesota wine. I was drawn to it because there's a little bee on it, and then it said pumpkin, and it actually, I'll do it again.
Wow. I
drink. It can be the Beekuba sponsored wine of the season.
It could. So anyway, I didn't mean to jump, but I just had to tell you that it doesn't stop at coffee.
No, jump in. I love it. I love a good wine. Is it I assume it's a red. Am I correct?
It's not.
It's a white?
It's more like
wow.
It's a bit like a Pinot Noir. Or excuse me, a Pinot Grigio, and it's kind of got that lightness and that same coloring. It's real good. It's real good.
Wow. So again, everyone listening will have learned something today, including Sarah and I, right? I had no idea that was coming, right? So
I'm so down for trying it.
I'm in.
I might have to go to Minnesota.
Well, I'll be, if Katie recommends it, I am all in, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, and I think that's a great segue into who our guest is today, because we are honored, we are privileged, we are delighted to have the wonderful Katie Christensen with us today. She is a Gallup Clifton Strengths coach. She's an Eat to Grow certified coach. She is the founder and lead, main, dominant, wonderful, amazing coach. I don't know if any of those things are what you call yourself, of Beekuba, which is one of my absolute favorite strengths coaching businesses out there. Not to be totally biased, but I just adore Katie and had the privilege of being Eat to Grow certified in her presence and learned so much, and she really has impacted my own personal coaching immensely. So anytime I have the opportunity to sit with her, I feel just so darn lucky. So Katie, welcome to Strengths on Fire. We're happy to have you.
Wow. Well, thanks for all that. Super excited to be here. And I mean, just equally, if not more excited to sit with both of you. So thanks for the invitation and the great introduction. I need to take you with me anywhere I go and just have you introduce me. That was great.
I'm nothing if not a hype woman, okay?
She's the hype.
I love that.
She is the hype. I like it.
Everyone needs a hype woman. Yeah, for sure.
Can we put a little pressure on Katie right now? Can we just let her know that we are actually kicking off our Coach to Coach segment series with Katie? Like, you are we are kicking it in. So just not to say shining is required, but it's Katie. We knew shining would be there. So.
I know she cannot not shine. She was made for this. Okay.
Yes.
This is. I mean, wow. Thanks. I did not know this. My heart's beating fast now. It'll be fun. We'll have fun.
Is it because of the wine? The heart's beating faster?
Yeah, it is. I can hardly wait. I should have brought some for all of us today.
Yeah. Now I'm a little upset.
We don't have a plan for this podcast, so you didn't know pumpkin was going to come up.
I didn't know.
And if I don't get a shipment of pumpkin wine, this podcast will never see the time of day. So
I feel that.
Pumpkin wine is required now.
It is.
Well, okay, let me get the audience acquainted with you a little bit. So Katie's top 10, now correct me if I get this wrong: adaptability, context, maximizer, belief, positivity, arranger, harmony, connectedness, woo, and activator.
You got it.
Got it. Can you tell us, how the heck did you get here? How did you become the Beekuba that you are today?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, it goes back a ways, but I'll abbreviate it so it doesn't get too long. But I honestly think that my strengths journey and where I ended started in my first career, which was working at a camp. And I went to this camp. It was a Christian camp, actually, and I went for probably all the wrong reasons. I went because there was a cute boy that I thought would be fun to get to know. I went because I liked the mountains.
I love that.
I went because I like kids. It seemed like a fun thing to do. And anyway, I got there, and I really wasn't a great employee because I was sort of focused on myself, frankly, and it was a community kind of situation, and I really had some things on my mind. But what happened in that setting salvaged all of this.
Sounds like a lot happened in that setting.
Wow.
It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot for that setting, but it had a director that was strengths based, and I don't think he would have called himself that, He didn't use CliftonStrengths, but what he knew how to do was look through all of the rubbish, all of the raw stuff, all of my talent that was coming out in kind of a big old mess, and pull on the threads that were powerful. And he saw things before I saw things, and kind of insisted that I have the opportunity to use those. And within a couple of years, he was inviting me to be the program director and like kind of, move up into leadership. And leadership was not something I saw in myself. In fact, when I started at the camp, people would have teased me for not wanting to call the pizza guy and order a pizza. So to stand up in front of a group was like, what? And this person just saw things in me and started pulling things out. That's foundational to Beekuba and what we do now, fast forward many years later, where we really try to go into organizations and help leaders in particular know how to pull out the best in each person. And I got to experience it firsthand, and it changed my life. It literally changed the trajectory of my life. To know that I have talent, my education. We don't have to go back to that too much, but I was one of those kids that didn't succeed real well in the traditional setting. And so I learned in that setting that maybe I'm not super talented or gifted, and I needed somebody to change that thinking in me. And so now, as I think about Beekuba, we try to really help people change their thinking about themselves and about others to find the golden nuggets in one another and in self. And that's where it all started, frankly. That was a long time ago now. I mean, a long time ago now. But here we are, and it really is the foundation.
Sarah, I got to know what happened to the guy at the camp.
What happened to the guy at the camp? Well,
you mean Katie, not Sarah.
I was going to say that
sorry.
Sarah also
Katie.
had a camp.
Yeah.
I was like, I had a guy at a camp.
Totally off. But Katie, what happened? What happened?
The pressure came off for a moment. The way the story went down is I had actually said no to the camp. They had called me, and I was like, no, I don't want to. No, that's not what I want to do. And I was working at the YMCA, and this really good-looking guy walked in, and he goes, hey, are you Katie Oxton? Or is Katie Oxton here? That was my last name. I said, yeah, that's me, right? And he goes, oh, I was told you might be going to camp this summer, and I was wondering if you wanted to carpool. And I was like, well, yes, I am going to camp this summer. That's how I got there.
My schedule just opened up.
It just opened up, and so we may have hung out a bit that summer, and he is no longer in my life. Thank goodness I found Mike, and it's such a much better thing. But he was a nice guy, and that's what got me to camp. So I don't know what that was. It might have maybe pulled on my woo a little bit. I'm not sure, but I did go, and I went for that reason, if I'm totally honest.
So good.
I love a good honesty,
Yeah.
A good hard dose of sometimes that's what it takes to get you there, especially when you're young.
Absolutely.
When we're young, we just sometimes have to be motivated for different reasons.
Well, and it was in Idaho, and if I'm honest, I didn't know really what Idaho was about. I've never been to Idaho, right? So, yeah.
So can you highlight your practice for just a moment? Let us know where you're at, where you're working out, or for those that won't know where the name came from, might be really a good one.
Yeah, for sure. So I am in St. Cloud, Minnesota, about an hour north of the Twin Cities. And Beekuba is the name of our company. My husband and I run it together. We're co-founders, and we are a strengths-based team. We can get into that if you want to. And so we do really different things. Beekuba, the name is Danish, beehive in Danish is what it is. And first of all, if you've ever tried to name something, you will very quickly find out that all the names are taken. So we spent weeks and weeks and weeks trying to find a name for our company. And we would even make up words, and somebody had already thought of it. So you start to realize you've never had an original thought. And then we started looking at other languages, and Christensen is Danish. And so we decided, like, hey, beehive, because there's a few things. Here you go. Beehive, bees. Bees are if they're healthy, right? If the hive is healthy, they actually go out into the world and do good for the world and beyond. So one of the real core values that we have is in making workplaces healthy, we create individuals or help individuals to find their own health so that they can go home to their families, to their communities, and have energy to give and to share beyond. And so when we have healthy workplaces, the impact is so much bigger than just a healthy workplace, which is important in and of itself. But the joy and the fulfillment that people find, leaves them, in fact, builds them up to have leftover or extra energy, or however you want to say it. But last but not least, Mike and I, my husband, and partner, met in college in the computer lab, which was called the Beehive. So there you go.
Oh my
Circle.
gosh.
Oh.
Yeah, I know, right? All these little, so it all connects.
I love that. And it's such it
Yeah.
you're right. I renamed my business. I was Collins Career Coaching and I recently went to Collins Collective. And you may think, that seems very similar and not like that far of a departure. And that's because the exact same thing happened to me. And I was working with a company. I was paying them and said, okay, come up with a new name. And they were like, this is the hardest thing. And they do name businesses, but to do coaching businesses like we have, they had pages and pages of names, and no one could decide what to do. It was so hard. So I
hard.
empathize with that journey that you were on to name the business.
Yeah, I was just on with another group of coaches in another forum that we get together in, and I think the end advice for naming was just do it. Just do something. Just forget, I think we tend to overemphasize the importance right out of the gate, and we put so much pressure to get it perfect. Right. And I was talking about since I'm at Bill Dipple's strengths coaching, I was like, well, I took the easy route. Right. Dipple's such a weird last name anyway that it just didn't exist. So and I kind of gave that advice where I was like, we could have been Alpine coaching or other things. And we just chose to build all our marketing around a name, which worked out well for us. But in the end, the entire group came up with, actually stop overthinking it. It's okay, right?
Yeah.
Just do a different, do something different. And I love how you got to where you were. I mean, you have all of this incredible insight into why a beehive works so well. And then it all boils down to, and by the way, Mike and I met at the beehive. It's,
right?
that's,
at the end.
I mean, really, that's all it is. So
It's perfect.
Yeah.
So, Katie, when did you first get exposed to CliftonStrengths? So, your camp director who poured into you, you said that it wasn't necessarily CliftonStrengths at that time. It was just the philosophy of leaning into what people do best, that positive psychology slant. So, when was it that you got introduced to CliftonStrengths?
Yeah. So in 2007, I went back to get my master's it was a leadership program. And as a part of that program, they had us take CliftonStrengths to do self-reflective work, to make sure that, you're understanding yourself as a leader first. And so they used that tool. And through that process, I got to sit and have some one-on-one coaching and really learn about myself in some deeper ways that my mind was just blown. And I just sort of fell immediately in love with the tool. Took it back to the setting that I was in, which was actually working with high school students, and started using the tool as a communication tool between students and parents. One of the premises that I still hold is that high school students get a bad rap when really it just comes down to communication. And a lot of times parents think, and I've been a parent of two teenagers, that they're supposed to think just like us because we created them, and they don't. So we misstep simply because, like any two humans, we have a different idea about how things should happen or work or our preferences. So started using it with parents and students, actually, to think about, who am I? Students are starting to think about, am I in this world? So that was part of it. Then how do we communicate by using this tool? And I had just some powerful moments where parents and students were opened up to each other in ways that changed their relationship, which got me more hooked, right? Because you start seeing the impact that this can have. And then I started doing a lot of moonlighting because a parent would say, hey, this seems like it would float to my business. And at some point, I think somebody said, do you do this for the corporate world? And I just sort of said, yes, I do. In a way, I went and did it. And then that started becoming more of what I was doing. And eventually Mike said, hey, let's think about this. So,
Wow.
yeah.
It just strikes me that a lot of things in your life have come from quick random answers and questions. Do you need a ride to camp? Yes. Yes, I do. Do you do this for the corporate world? Yeah, absolutely
Yes,
I do. Yeah.
Any
You're just
surprise that she's got that activator in her top 10?
right there, right?
Yeah, let's go. I
let's do
do need
it.
a ride to camp.
Activator
I
and
do need this.
adaptability, right? You put those two together and it's like,
Snapping.
man,
They're just
now.
snapping together. Yeah. Well, I love, so good. I'm glad we jumped to that because it drives me crazy for some reason that context is number 34 for me. It's number 11 for Sarah. So it's just outside of her top 10. But when I get to coach people with high context, I can get tripped up sometimes because content, and by the way, futuristic is very low for me. So when I explain this to people, I'm like, I'm not thinking this way in future, and I'm not thinking this way. I'm thinking right now, right? I am in the moment. So for me, both futuristic and context can throw me curveballs. So I'm curious, how does context influence your coaching? How do you coach it? How do you work with it? Because it's such a different space than what I would do. So I'm curious how you see it.
Yeah. I mean, I love my context. Context is actually a theme that probably for the first 3 years that I lived with my profile, my results, I was a context denier. And I think that we all know that happens. That happens when we live too close to something, right? You've all worked with
sitting
somebody
on top of your nose.
Yeah, they get the results back and they're like, oh no, that's not me. I don't do that. And then they either have a friend that's like, yeah, you do that all the time, or we live with it and we dissect it long enough and we start paying attention to it and we go, oh my gosh, I do that like I breathe. I don't even know. I've never experienced life without doing that, so I just don't even know it's a thing. I thought that's what every human did, and they don't, it turns out. But for me, because my profile is pretty responsive. I have a pretty fast profile overall. I'm in the moment, I'm responsive, I move now. Context for me is very much about a quick touch back and a movement forward. So I think the thing that gets really confused about context sometimes is that people assume it's about going back, living in the past, wanting to go back. I haven't really met too many people that have context that do that. But what I have come to know from myself and from others is that it's just this referencing. It's this constant like, how do I know that person? What do they like? What don't they like? What was my last interaction with them? How can I play that forward for our successful interaction this time? So for me, I have a lot of orange, a lot of blue. My context is really focused oftentimes on people and humans and what do I know about them from the past? How can I use that knowledge to have a successful relationship or engagement going forward? And that's how I know it in myself and how I often see it in others, obviously depending on what someone's whole profile is, but yeah.
Yeah, I love hearing you point that out because you have 4 relationship building themes in your top 10, 3 influencing. So very dominant on the people side. So that one strategic thinking theme of context, it is so then wrapped up into the people part. It almost sounds like individualization when you describe it that way. And I love to break this down for people because I'm always telling people the outcome of what you do out in the world can come from different strengths. So y'all are coaches here. I'm sure you've had people say like, oh, I know this person and they're like this. What strengths do you do? What strengths do you think they have? And I hate doing that. I'm like, listen, I'm not a mind reader because it can be hard to get it right because what we see in the world is not necessarily a direct line to a certain strength. And just the way you described that context wrapped with 7 people heavy themes, it is then interested in how do I know this person? Where are they from? What is interesting to them? So then I can use that information. It's like, I imagine it like this bow and arrow. Your context pulls back to say, what do I need to know? Who is this? So it go fast forward as fast as you can go off to the races.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great depiction of that. And I think, sometimes people will ask like, well, how did you build your business? How have you, and I think building a business for me was a lot of quick answers, Bill, to your point, but also it is knowing everything that I'm not good at and who do I need to bring in to fill those gaps, right? So that ability to recognize patterns from the past in my interactions with people and say, that's someone I need to go after to be a part of this, to fill in for the stuff I don't want to do, am bad at, whatever, really plays a big part, I think, into how, we've built the business. Pretty strategic.
So good. Yeah. And I love that you're highlighting and filling in on context for you. And you brought up we don't see it ourselves when we're living it so often. And very early on much earlier in my coaching career, I coached a small group of women that have an amazing company in Reno. And the owner was very strengths aware, had taken it twice. And she took it again with us, and positivity came out number 1, and it was number 6 before or something. And she was infuriated that positivity was number 1. She was just, that is not
how ironic.
Exactly. Right. And all of the people in the room were just, have you talked to yourself? Do you know, do you hang out with yourself at any point? Right. So, how we see it in other people is always really important. I guess, how do you coach people with context? How might you approach the idea of context when instead I see how you do it with yourself and it's wrapped in those liners of so much people skills. What about other people with context?
Yeah. For me, coaching is always within the context of the whole. So I don't coach a theme, right? It's what is your whole picture and what motivates you. So when I look at the domains, the first thing I'm looking for in that is, what domain colors are really prevalent in this person, therefore what do they care about? So if somebody has context and a lot of other green, likely the focus of their context and what they're looking back to is different than someone who's really orange or really purple. And so it's really within the context of the whole, and there you hear context, right? I'm answering the question in a very context way. I can't answer the question without more context. And so it's always, and Sarah, to your point, there's a bit of individualization in that too. I can't say this is how I always approach it because I've never coached the same profile twice. And so, but what I find is, I really look at the domains as simply motivation. Everybody does all 4 of those things. Everybody executes. Everybody strategically thinks, influences, and builds relationships. But which one do you get up in the morning motivated to do? I'm blue and orange. I want to be with people. I want to build relationships. I want to get, share my energy about ideas with others. But I will get really strategic about how to bring others along. So strategic kicks in for me when it's going to be applied to motivating people. I will leave strategic totally out there. I would never sit down just to strategize something to say, hey, I have a great plan, if I didn't think it was going to be implemented with people immediately. So, it's within the context of the whole that I coach context, or really probably any theme, to be honest. Yeah. Great question.
Yeah. And I, like you, I am blue first, purple, or blue first, orange second. So I tend to be, everything I do is wrapped in humanity. So I love that you bring that up. That's a very powerful way to look at the themes and the domains. And my wife will love the fact that you brought up the domains, because I coach so often on generalities along a bunch of themes, but I don't always bring in the domains. And my wife lives in the domains in her coaching environment. She always starts there. She loves that part of it. And I love to hear you say that when I do it, I look at what is really important for you? Can I wrap that in you? So really, really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because Bill and his wife have worked together, and Katie, you work with your husband. You've mentioned Mike a few times. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the partnership based on your strengths? You kind of gave us a little preview of it already. How are you and Mike different when it comes to your strengths, and how has that been an advantage, and does it ever get in the way?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are the opposite human. So if you've met me, you've now met the opposite of my spouse, and he's very very green, but he's also very blue. So he's a blue green, which is I think an interesting combination. He's pretty intuitive. He's really caring. He's got things like harmony really high and relator. But he also has a lot of themes that cause him to pause and cause him to want to think and be really strategic in a structured way. He was a project manager prior to this. And there is nothing structured in my whole being, not my space, not my mind, not the way I approach things. And so we literally use strengths every single day to communicate because people are like, oh, I could never work with my spouse. I'm like, yeah, you probably could if you had strengths. Because if I didn't, we couldn't work together either. But because we both speak fluent strengths, we know when we've bumped, we know why we've bumped, and we're willing to pause and go, okay, what do you need that I'm not giving you? What do I need that I'm not getting from you? And how do we negotiate that to get the outcome that generally speaking, we are both pretty aligned around? It's just that our process looks so different. It can feel like we're heading in two different directions. At the end of the day, we both have high harmony and we're pretty motivated to get in step with each other. And I think that, that helps us as well. But he's so brilliant with high intellection. So he wants to understand things. I'm just like, let's start a business and let's just hire people and we'll just, and then I found out you have to pay a lot of taxes for this. And what, I mean, so he keeps me out of jail is what I say sometimes because he, pays our taxes. But I mean, we just think about different things and it works. It works really, really well. Well, I will say it works really well. I'll let you talk to Mike about what he thinks at some point. But we do have fun most of the time. And strengths is foundational to how we work together well.
Yeah.
The core.
Hold on.
I love hearing you say that.
I'm booking Mike right now. Hold on. I'm on the side chat
really
right now trying to
We should.
Yeah.
And actually, I love hearing you say that because, of course, my husband has strengths and I am constantly coaching him. He's finally opened up to let me coach him for his work. Like for a long time, I would do this thing unknowingly. I'd put my hand on my chin and he'd be like, that's your coaching face. Don't do that with me. And I'd be like, I'm sorry. It's like, occupational hazard. I can't help it. But over the years, he's been like, okay, I actually am really curious on what you think I should do here. So I coach him more at work. But as you were talking, I was like, I don't know if he has the awareness of my strengths. And I also don't know if I think about them in the context of how we live, because like you and like many people I hear, we have a lot of very different strengths. And as you were talking, I'm like, after this podcast, I am printing his strengths out and my strengths. I'm hanging them on the fridge, okay? Had to do it with the calendar, so we knew we were on the same page, and we're going to get a side-by-side strengths profile on our fridge. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. I mean, literally, I have 2 teenagers, and we are a strengths-based family. And their profiles and ours have hung on it's tattered. It's been on our refrigerator for years and years and years. We have the bring it, need it sheets up. So when we're struggling, it's like, go to the refrigerator. What does your sister need? Or what are you missing? And I'm not saying it fixes everything and everybody gets along perfectly all the time, but it is a lens to pause and say, we might actually want the same thing, but we're missing something in one another. And it's a powerful
Talk
lens.
about someone who lives and breathes this stuff. I mean, honestly, like #goals. I have little kids, and to hear you doing this with your older children, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if they're going to love me or hate me, but I am doing this.
I think we all love it when somebody focuses on what's right with us, though, right? And finding their niche. One of my daughters likes the stage, and she would come with me. She started coming with me because once in a while I still go in and do parents and kids, not too often, but once in a while. And when she was about 14, she came with me to a session, and I'll never forget. I'm standing up there and I'm talking, and she's there, kind of present, but not, just sort of handing out papers and stuff. And somebody, a parent, an adult, asked a question, and all of a sudden she stands up and she goes, "I'll take this." And she starts responding to the she just took over, and it meant so much more coming from her than if I would have said, "Well, this is what we do in our family," And she's like, "Well, let me tell you about this,"
I got this.
Yeah, I got this. I'll take this one. Okay. So you really can. And I think that power. So I'll drop this here. This is Mike and I have been working on our own podcast, Sarah, and it's called The Power of Two. It's called the Power of
Big
Two. Yeah.
announcement, big announcement,
Big
people.
I know.
announcement.
That's
There it
there
is.
it is. Woo! Nobody knows. You're the first to know. I just announced it
Woo,
here.
woo!
Mike might kill me. Mike might actually reach out to you and be like, "You have to cut that out. We're not ready." Right? That's my activator.
Editor,
But it's
edit broken. Editor's broken.
Yeah.
I can't. It's all over.
Post,
I don't
post,
know.
post.
Post.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, that's what I was supposed to say, right? But the part of the reason for that is that as I've worked with organizations, one of the things, what we do at Beekuba is only long-term implementation. So if somebody calls me and says, I want you to come in and I've got 20 minutes and I want you to teach everybody because we want to be a strengths-based organization, I go, well, I'll give you my friend's number, and I, give them someone else's number. But what we do is that long-term implementation. But what I've learned is even when you're with an organization for a number of years, there's something about it that people think like, well, I talked to them about their strengths a year ago, and we're still not getting along. And it's like, here's the deal. This is something that you use every day in every conversation, because it's not that either one of you is going to change. It's that you're going to remind each other about what you need to be your best and what you can do to help that person be their best. And you can't memorize all 100 people that you work with, so you got to keep having these conversations. And you have to keep thinking about what is the power of two. What is the power between the two of you, whoever that is, whether it's your family or a colleague, but it's a repeated conversation and an ongoing conversation. So that's where that passion comes from. It's like it's ongoing.
Yeah, and it reminds me of eating right and working out. As much as I would love to do like 6 months of really good working out and eating and then be like, I'm good for the rest of the year,
I
that's
got
not
it.
how it works.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
so
It's not.
annoying. Like, I wish
Yeah.
it worked that way.
Yeah.
But when it comes to development, whether it's on your health and wellness or
Yeah.
this stuff, working with other people, your professional growth, it is a journey that unfortunately has no destination. So you better find a cozy seat to settle into and enjoy the ride.
I love that. I love that. Find a cozy seat. That's great.
And I resonate with you so much, Katie, on it's a long-term engagement, because when we approach clients, we tell them right up front, this is a 3-year process. And we generally say 3 years just to make them aware of it, let them know and like you, I will call another coach if they say, I just need a flash in the pan, hit the basics, top 5 only, don't seed in. Generally speaking, I'm like, I can put you in touch with someone that'll be happy to do that, but we don't do that. And Katie, to hear that from you and to hear how you're doing that, it's really gratifying on my end, because it does speak a lot to the people that we work with. You have to put in the time on this, right? There is a commitment to it that we want to make very clear up front, and it can be hard to get over it. Yeah.
Well, and what organization? Okay.
The other thing I was going to say, I also have seen this from Sarah before,
Oh yeah.
right?
The
That
coaching
look.
phase?
Have you seen the coaching? Because when she said it about her, I was like, I get that all the time. She's telling me what to do. I'm
Giving you that look.
I'm getting. For those of you listening, we have video too. We may be doing a YouTube version of this, so we capture the video so we can all see each other. I apologize, but the coaching face is very thinker-esque from Sarah.
Got my hand
so.
on my chin, stroking.
Yes, very nice.
With that real pensive eye narrowing in.
Yes, very nice. So So when you do the long-term commitment component, do you get a lot of traction with that? Do you find most people are bought into that, or do you struggle with that at times?
Yeah. No, we have had tremendous buy-in with that. And one of the things I think that if you've worked with organizations over time, the most frustrated organization that you will start with is the one who they've done a new tool every year, right? Oh, we did disc last year, and the year before that we did colors, and the year before we did, and they've got just this kind of train of assessments that they've used, and then they move on to the next one. And what I always start with is, look, I'm not here to tell you that Strengths is the only great tool. I think that there's probably lots of tools you could use. if you go deep enough that people can actually use the tool. Because what I'm not here to do is get you fluent in strengths simply to say you speak strengths. I'm here to help you use a tool. By the way, we'll use other tools besides strengths, but that this is kind of a foundational tool to communicate. And when people understand that, they go, oh, so when we jump ship every year, what it eventually does is it says to my people, I'm not going to spend the time getting fluent. We're just going to do something new next year. This is too much work. And it never gets them to the point where they feel the return. When people feel the return is when they become fluent and they can actually start preventing problems, solving problems, understanding people better, being understood better, and that takes time. And I think once organizations feel that and start experiencing that, they just want more. So we were just looking, we've had one client that hasn't gone on for another contract. And I think even from the beginning, that was a client that I probably should have said, we don't do what you're asking for, which from the very beginning, they kind of wanted a one and done, right? And so part of it is casting that vision at the beginning so that it's not a bait and switch. I don't want anybody to think they're going to transform in a 90-minute session. They're just not. They're going to get maybe inspired in a 90-minute session. Transformation takes time. But we've had a lot of success with carrying, people into year 2, year 3, and year 4, and just continuing then to build on that foundation. And it takes review, it takes bringing new people in, and of course there's a million concepts that we can build on that are important to corporate settings or work settings that require a strengths-based foundation, and that's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. And Katie, you and I met at an Eat to Grow training, and I know you use Eat to Grow a lot in the work that you do. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what it is you like and really utilize at Beekuba with Eat to Grow, and maybe how that appeals to your strengths?
Yeah. So, Eat to Grow is essentially a platform for those of you who maybe haven't heard of it. And it's a platform that collects your entire team's strengths. And then through the platform, we can also deliver micro learnings. So part of our whole philosophy is that you have a training, but then you have these small micro learnings that follow a training where people actually practice, apply, use the things that they learned in training. We all know it gets lost if we don't use it. So right away, every Monday, they're getting this small, maybe 10-minute micro learning that's getting them into the practice of whatever we talked about. Because what we do is behavioral engineering. We're helping people put on new behaviors and create habits, that are going to serve them and others well. So that's how we use the platform. But then what's really cool about it is people can look at each other's profiles and preferences. So one of the micro learnings has someone like, I would go in and fill out, what do I really bring through my talent lens? What do I need? What frustrates me? I populate that. So now it's not just a generic, what would my themes tend to like or dislike or need or get frustrated by. And now I'm telling you, this is me, but now you can go out and look at it. You can read it. So, managers, before they have a one-on-one, they can scroll and in 2 minutes they can go, oh yeah, that's what this person needs from me. And it's not that we stop meeting with the person. Of course, we always need the real live person to talk to. But it helps. It helps us be reminded that we're different and we have different needs. And there's little things that each of us can do to serve one another better.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great description of it. I also use Eat to Grow in some of the business practices that I do. I use their high performing teams program, and I do think that it is. I love when you use the term behavioral engineering, right? I just love the habits. It's getting people in the habit. And I think the way that you emphasize this is a long-term thing. Don't be hopping from one thing to the next thing. Like, get in here and dig in and keep learning.
Right. And there's so much depth. We could spend a whole day on one theme if we wanted to. And that's something, I've been at Strengths for 14 plus years, and I'm continuing to learn new things. Every time I meet with somebody, I learn something new about how a theme shows up. And that's what keeps it kind of alive and new and exciting for me. Strengths is great because you can benefit from it the very first time you come in contact with it, and you can start to apply, the takeaways, and you can continue to learn and go deeper you know, 14, 15, 16 years in or beyond, I'm sure. So that's what I
Absolutely.
love about it. Yeah.
When we talk about name it, claim it, aim it, which we use often when we're talking strengths, I'm always
Yeah.
telling people, yes, we want to get to the aim it where we can use this, right? Which does make it different, I think, than some other assessments. Because some other
Yep.
assessments, I think they're just interesting. And I love that. I always tell people,
Right.
I'm a 3 on the Enneagram and I'm a Hufflepuff. You give me an assessment, I will take it. I want to know about me.
Great. That's
But I
great.
don't do anything with it beyond that.
Yeah.
And so we want to get to the aim, but I'm like, but you will be claiming this for the rest of your life because you are changing. The world is changing.
that.
Your job is changing. Your relationships are changing. So how you're showing up on a day-to-day basis, it is changing and evolving. And so coming
Yeah.
back to see, oh, wait, I've been doing this a lot lately. I wonder where that's coming from. That self-awareness and then the ability to communicate with those that you're working with, you're in relationship with. It really is, it's like a religion. You're practicing this forever.
It's a little bit
Oh,
like
wow.
that.
We just
bit
stepped
like
into
a-
that.
Yeah.
Sorry. I always am saying things on this podcast that I regret later.
Post. So thank you guys for talking about Eat to Grow. I don't use it in my coaching practice. It's not that I'm opposed to it. It's just that I don't think I understand it super well. I know there's some integrations in an app. I have talked to the Eat to Grow group a couple of times at the summit, and I definitely love the idea of continuing education. So thank you guys for sharing that. That's really that's a good note for the coaching end of it to hear, because that actually gives me a little more, I guess, onus to learn more about it. Because if you two are using it and you're getting really good results out of it, then I definitely think that's something I need to reconsider and jump back into. So, and Katie, I don't want to put you in a hard spot with Mike, but we are on a podcast that we've already admitted 2 people listen to. So do you want to talk about when your podcast is coming? When might we hear the great Katie and Mike power of 2?
He is going to be like, what? You did what? And he's familiar with my activator. But so we have been, kind of the pre-work. You guys know all the pre-work that goes into it. You don't just, and I thought you did, but you don't just sit down and just like start talking into a microphone, right? There's a lot. And he does voiceover. I think, Sarah, you already mentioned that. So he's got all of the equipment. He has all the understanding for it. But he's a very scripted person when it comes to this kind of thing. Like, he used to do trainings all the time for big, like pharma, but they were very scripted. So he's confident in front of a group, but give me the script, I'll stick to it. And I am anything but scripted, right? So don't script me or you get a robot and it gets really uncomfortable and weird. And so we have to, we're working on how to negotiate that. How do we have an unscripted, scripted conversation that is going to make sense of what we're trying to do? And then we'll be bringing in other pairs also. So it won't always just be about, how do we work together? We'll start there and that'll be a grounding. But then it'll be really, and in part what I want to create this for is for my clients who are trying to learn about their profile in context to other. And I think we can learn a lot from hearing about, oh yeah, I have that theme and so-and-so has that theme and that makes sense for me too. And that's kind of who it's for. I mean, anybody can listen to it, but that's sort of who it's for. Did I answer the question? I don't know.
No, absolutely.
Yes.
Did I? Okay.
Absolutely. I didn't hear a hard
anything
date.
Incriminating.
I didn't hear a hard.
You lock yourself in a box. So
I got no hard date, so that's smart.
Yeah.
Really good. Well done.
Thank you.
So,
I mean, that was that. I had to hold that back because that's what I would love to do and just really pin us down right now. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not. You're watching me dial my talent. I'm dialing.
Yeah.
Dial it back. I will tell you, as someone in the waters, the date will probably move.
I was just echoing that. It's like our date has moved a little. Not much, actually. We've done really well to stay pretty close to what we had laid out, but it has definitely shifted. So, and there's a learning curve. I agree with you.
And Katie, you may not know this, but when Bill and we met at Charlotte's event the year before last year.
Okay.
And then we met again this year. I guess it was last year and this year. I'm so confused by the time. And we both have Woo and Activator. And so when Bill brought
Ah,
up this podcast to me, I was
yeah.
like, you and I cannot have a podcast because we're both like you, Kate. We're just like unscripted. I was like, if we have a podcast, it'll be a total dumpster fire because like
Sideways.
we have what plan? A plan? I don't know. Like why are people trying to pin us down? Like let's just get in
Right,
there and riff.
right. That's the
So,
best of all worlds, right there, right there. Yeah.
well, we all think it is.
Well,
Well,
hold
I
on.
know. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Hold
Yeah,
on. She's
Mike's
about to
not
ask.
here.
Yeah, right.
So the working name of the podcast was Strengths Dumpster Fire. And then eventually, my positivity came in and said, okay, that is not positive enough. This is all about what's strong. So let's do
That's
Strengths on Fire.
amazing.
But we
Yeah.
have a segment called Strengths Dumpster Fire because
Yeah.
of course, these strengths work in our advantage. They make us great. We have heard how they work in your favor. Tell us about when your strengths or what strengths bring you to a complete dumpster fire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm going to be totally honest, any of our themes can do that and occasionally do. And when you live in a family that all are fluent, they will tell you when it goes into the dumpster fire. So, you're cleaning your house on Saturday morning and your girls are like using your like, Mom, your maximizer's totally out of control right now. The house is clean, I'm like, okay, you're right. We're done. So, I have people that are checking me really honestly. You have teenagers that are pretty honest anyway, and then, you give them the language of strengths and they will let you know when you're going wrong. But, for me, strengths has been such a powerful journey for me because the talents that I have are not talents that get a lot of attention or a lot of coaching in school. And so, if you have a certain profile, you get a lot of coaching in school. People go, oh, I know how to teach to this, and they nurture it, and you develop through that setting. I did not. And so I had to find other people, other places, and other ways to develop my talent. And in that process, I think it's a longer process, and you really learn how messy they can be. You think about adaptability, number one, when I was in college, was an absolute mess because it just, anybody that walked by that wanted to do something fun was like, yes, I'm with you, and out the door I would go. Now dialed in, I can manage that with my maybe maximizer. I know what I want the outcome to be. If I go out the door right now, I'm not going to have the outcome I want. So, you start to learn that. But I mean, you want me to go down the list, I can tell you what they all look like as a dumpster fire. I think the ones that are most obvious to people, adaptability, right? It can be just a shotgun of everything. And at its very best, it's just fluid for the needs of others. But what I like to do is stay open. I hate when my calendar gets too crowded because then what if somebody calls and needs something and I can't just shift for it, right? And so, adaptability isn't just flexible for the sake of flexibility. It truly is flexible for the sake of other. When you understand that, I think then you can manage that dumpster fire a bit better. Activator, Mike and I joke whenever we introduce. Have you guys seen the cards? Maybe they're Eat a Grow, maybe they're Gallop. I'm not sure, but they, the picture cards, right? And there's that one where there's somebody jumping out of the airplane, and then there's like two guys back that are like they look like they're the next ones to jump out. And Mike always uses that as his picture to describe our working relationship. And he's like, Katie is the one that has jumped out of the plane, and I am behind her tossing her the parachute that she forgot, right? So it's true, and it's super true because I am just ready. I am born ready, and yet I do need the brake to be pumped. So my dumpster fire is I'm jumping too fast. But the magic that I have figured out in my life is that I will never change really. I can dial myself for sure, and I can come out, but what I have learned is the magic of power of team, right? Power of people and knowing, the thing I love most about my Beekuba team or the Beekuba team is that we don't go after each other's dumpster fires or weaknesses at all. Like, I'm not saying I don't have to try to manage and I can't just show up a complete disaster, but we really just remove stumbling blocks for each other so that we can allow one another to shine in the places that we're meant to shine and not put time and energy into those places where, man, I can work really hard to do some of those things, but it's going to take you 2 seconds. So why don't you do that, and then I'll do this thing that I'm really good at. And I mean, you guys know that from a strengths-based perspective, but I honestly spend very little time thinking about my dumpster fires anymore. And I think part of that is that I spent so much of my life feeling like a dumpster fire, that I am kind of unwilling to like give it much more energy, because it's like, yeah, it's still there. I still go raw, but I've figured out there's a way to manage that. And that's the beautiful strengths of each person around me, you know? So
She just hit on get to know your strengths, dive in, and your dumpster fire moments just go away. Or at least you don't harp on them and stay in them and revel in them. Because that is such a powerful message, Katie, around how if you understand it, you can communicate with people through strengths, how your dumpster fire isn't going to take control of you. So, wow.
And I love that your company is living the values that you're training and teaching others, right? You really are an example of what it can be. And I think that doesn't always happen. I mean, I have heard not even just strengths companies, but all sorts of leadership, learning and development companies, they are not practice what we preach type of environment. And it's so ironic. You're like, oh, that's weird that that happened there, because they're literally trying to teach people how to do this.
Right?
And so it's so wonderful to hear that. I mean, I just want to take everything you just said and like print it out and put it in front of me so I can read it, because I just feel like it's so powerful of what can happen when people understand what makes them right, what makes them good, what makes them strong, and other people know it and see it too, and then you work together better. And then the dumpster fires don't even become a big burning house. The house doesn't have to burn down, because if a little fire starts in a trash can, someone else is going to stomp it out and say, oh, let me get rid of that for you.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if Katie read the small print on what we sent her, but everything said on this podcast, we are allowed to use as a marketing material in our own jobs. So our AI has already translated everything you said. I posted it socially as something very, very powerful for us. So, Katie, thank you for that.
You're so welcome.
Katie,
welcome.
Katie, the way you said it, honestly, is just really moving and touching. Really, really well said. And I love the fact that you're tapping down those moments in your life. And how powerful is that for anyone listening to know, if I can step into this and be surrounded by it, we can tap down those moments where we're raw, as you said. Yeah.
Okay, Katie, we always send people a fun scenario question. And so this is your question. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready. I am ready.
You're on a road trip with your strengths as your passengers. Who's in charge of navigation, snacks, and entertainment?
Oh, and before you answer, Katie, can I ask, what strength was the cutie that asked you, hey, do you want to ride to get in the car? We're on a road trip. Who was the right? So.
Oh, okay. We're adding the co-pilot.
Yes.
Who was the
co-pilot? Who's he?
Oh my gosh. I mean, well, that was Activator. We know Activator. It was like, but so for sure, and probably Woo and Activator together. I mean that can create all kinds of things. Adaptability is going to be my navigator, which sounds crazy. I know you think you've got a ranger. Why not put a ranger in charge of that? But a ranger is going to really push on my desire to like feel what direction the wind is coming from and go with the moment. I love a day that I get to just move through the day, be productive, but like I get to move through the day. Trip, same thing. I don't want an overly scripted trip. I want to like just get on the road and drive and see like, hey, that looks interesting. Let's go that direction. So totally adaptability is going to be my navigator. Okay, so navigator, who's buying the snacks? Did you say? Snacks. Going to buy the snacks. Maximizer's totally going to buy the snacks because they're going to do a really good job. They're going to know everything I love, and they're going to take whatever we have access to, and they're going to mine the very best. Snacks are going to be awesome on this trip. And okay, why can't I remember? Entertainment?
Yep.
My connectedness. My connectedness is going to do the entertainment because entertainment is only good when everybody in the car is connected to it and enjoying it. So my connectedness is going to like know what everybody is going to like. What song can we play that we're all going to really get into, or like maybe that's my harmony coming in a little bit too. But we got to make sure we're on this trip together. By the way, this car is full of people. I am not on this trip by myself, so that's part of it, right?
That's right.
So, okay. Yeah.
I mean,
so there you go.
You just answered that like a real CliftonStrengths professional. I mean, that was so well thought out and articulated.
Wow. I don't think I could have answered that. And I saw the question ahead of time. So, wow. Very nice, Katie. Very nice.
Great question. It's a great question.
Well, Katie, I thank you so much for your time today. I know I've learned all sorts of goodies from you today, and your take on the idea of the dumpster fire and getting it to calm down is going to be something I'm going to take away from this for quite some time. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, Katie, it's just been a pleasure. You are so dynamic, so interesting. You have the best stories. So I am just so thrilled that the audience got to experience it. Beekuba, BEEKUBA.com. That's where people can find you. Any other places you want people to go to on the interwebs to find you and your team?
We're on LinkedIn. And we post and do things out there. But I think that the Facebook is probably the best place or the easiest place to connect. Or Katie@Beekuba.com too. You can send me a direct email there if you needed something or wanted to connect. I'd love to visit with you. Yeah.
Perfect. And we'd love to send people your way as well too, Katie. So thank you for the time today. We're going to check out. And again, thank you so much for coming. We will catch you later on.
Yep. Tell Mike hi for us.
We will. And thank you both for what you're doing here. I think it's great. Great energy. Yeah. It's just a fun time. And it's been really, really fun to sit with both of you. So thank you. And hey, you might be getting a call from me. So just.
And by the way,
we do have a partnership now. Look, Bill and I are partners.
Yes. Well, and if I get pumpkin wine, we're all in on that, right?
I mean, if you shoot us an email, I might, we might be able to figure this out. Or not email. I can't send wine through email. Address. Right. Send me your address. We'll figure this out.
Please do not send me email wine. I don't want the wine if it's email.
Do not. Yeah. I'm going to sign out by saying whoever the cute guy was that asked you and got away, you let a good one go. That's all I'm saying. So
his loss was Mike's gain, and we're all better for it.
And we're all better. Hallelujah. Mike, congrats, sir. All right. Thank you all. We'll see you. We'll see you on the next round. Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here every other week, bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com, follow her on Instagram at sarahcoachcollins, or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at billdipple.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at Bill Dipple Coach, or email him at bill@billdipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of CliftonStrengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.